Hi there, I'm Haruka. This is likely the earliest I have ever done this, and also the first time in a long time that I haven't done this with alcohol, and the first time in a long time that I do not have a script. Recently, I was able to play the free trial of Madden 22, and, I played it. It's like the 10-hour free trial if you have EA Play, which I do because I have Ultimate Game Pass stuff, so, Anyway, I was able to play the story mode, which, it's called, Face of the Franchise. It's the second time that they're doing it as Face of the Franchise instead of, some other weird thing that they've done before. Actually, they've done a lot of story modes in the past. But the thing about story modes in sports video games is that there are no good story modes in sports video games. I want you to think right now, if you're watching this, you likely have played Madden or 2K or FIFA. If you're watching this right now and you've played any of those games, think about it. Have you ever played a good story mode in a sports game? One that doesn't railroad you into certain moves or your own playing ability and wants, you can't play the way that you want, and if you play really good, it's still gonna send you off somewhere. It's always bad. So with the newest Madden, I decided, I play the story mode because I like having a nice single player story. And somehow in the new Madden, the story mode has both evolved and regressed at the same time. You are instantly given two characters around yours that you know nothing about and do not care about. They just sort of show up. I think one of them is your agent and the other one is your agent? I think they called himself your publicist. Maybe he's a childhood friend or something. I don't know who the heck this guy is. You are instantly given endorsement deals and contracts despite the fact that you have not actually played a single in-game snap. Technically your player, he played in college and you eventually play 2 games of your college career, but it all has this thing of everything's really coming up Millhouse for you, and it's just no, you've done nothing so far, and you're just getting Nike deals, you're getting invited to Nike and playing with all the best players in the NFL, and you've done nothing to earn it, and it feels empty. You have to really fuck up in order to fall out of the top 3 in the draft. I didn't even do this intentionally, but I fucked up on all of my combine drills because I'm not very good at being a pocket passer, and I was playing as a quarterback and I scramble a lot, so being forced to stay in the pocket is painful to me. And, I fucked up on my combine drills. I fucked up on my draft interviews because I was just you know what? I just want to be the most egotistical guy because I usually play a nice guy. And I still landed at 3rd being drafted by the New York Jets. And you're given a story that isn't actually a story. You get a mentor that doesn't exist or even matter. He gets introduced as this guy is your mentor, and it took me 2 games to figure out, he's my tight end. He just shows up as your tight end, and then you get a teammate that gets injured randomly. You don't know. I mean, at the very least, it's a real life player. It's Corey Davis that was injured for me, and okay, so I guess a real life player got injured and I have to care about that now. Your defensive coordinator is a woman for some reason, and I feel that needs to be explored more because they don't say anything about it. If she is actually your defensive coordinator, that's monumental that a woman was hired as a defensive coordinator. I feel there should be more involved with that, but it's just no, you just talk to her and you don't say anything about anything. It's just, oh yeah, definitely make sure the offense is scoring points. I don't know what's going on there. Your agent is also a big deal, and it's never explained why. You're her first and only client, and it's a big deal to everyone else, and there's this big thing, and you have to do a couple of interviews which are not interactive. You just have to hit the button to skip or go through certain things. They try to make these characters interesting, but you're just thrown in, and your characters already have relationships that have not been developed at all throughout any point within the time that you're playing, and you just don't understand them. There's this other thing with the offensive coordinator. Your player fanboys out about them, but there's no exposition. It doesn't explain to you who these people are. So the offensive coordinator is someone that your player really loves, and then also the defensive coordinator is a woman, and I feel that should be explored more. They hired a woman to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL. This is amazing, but no, there's nothing about that. And that's the big thing. There's no exposition. Like, it feels like they heard the complaints about being railroaded onto a predetermined character's path and decided to throw away any and all context as to who you are in hopes that it provides more freedom. But then it's not a story mode, it's just a more annoying version of a franchise mode where you have to sit through 20 different cutscenes of people you do not know talking about how cool it is that you're getting endorsement deals. There's no connection from the player to the character. Here's the thing, what makes a good story? Let's take a step back and consider what makes a good story. So you need characters, you need good characters, you need to be able to empathize with the main character in some way. They don't even have to feel relatable, or this could be me, but some of the best stories have those sort of characters where you're like, oh, that guy's like me. Surround them with other characters that you can understand and empathize with. I mean, the audience needs to build a connection with the supporting cast, whether it be a love interest, a best friend, a family member, possibly all three in one person. But it's really just, you need to have these things for a good story. Next is like, object of desire, like a MacGuffin, or generally something that not only the player wants, but the character gets you invested in wanting it as well as the audience. There needs to be a goal at the end of this thing, something that feels unattainable at the beginning and then slowly becomes attainable by the end. There needs to be a end goal. And finally, you need some sort of like tension and stakes. Like, this is where the actual story is, the trials that the hero must undergo in order to get the girl, save the kingdom, get the approval of his father. If there are no stakes, there is no tension and there is no story. You're just giving a description of your breakfast. Also, things need to connect and have a structure. I just wanted to mention the Dan Harmon story circle because it's very helpful. It was very helpful with figuring out like what I wanted to specifically write about. It's always been helpful with me in my writing, so just wanted to point that one out. Okay, so now what makes a good video game story? You still have to have good characters. I mean, the main character could be a set person, or you can allow customization, but if there's customization in appearance, then there needs to be customization in personality. In fact, like, the malleability of personality is incredibly important at making a game that can be fun for a lot of different people and make it replayable for different playstyles, so customizable personality should be more of a priority, but it's not that important if you can still tell a good story without that customization. Your relationships should have some sort of effect on the story and possibly even the way you play, like a romanceable character or literally just a support character. The point of video games is interactivity, and dialogue is the most basic form of interaction. Actually, interactivity gets a whole section here, because the stakes and tension of a video game comes in its interactivity. You can tell a good story, but if you have no control over the story, then you might as well just make a movie and not a video game where you'll have to press a button. I don't want to press buttons while watching a movie, I just want to watch a movie. If I'm playing a game, I want the button presses to matter. And if you do well, you get good things. You do bad, you get bad things. It all comes down to how you play. You can play in different ways and achieve different results. That's how life works, and that's how the most acclaimed games work. And if you do not have the ability to provide truly different endings, then don't provide meaningless choices if you'll just come back to the same spot no matter what. Being on rails is fine if it makes sense in context. It won't hurt you just to make a game over screen instead of pretending what happened didn't actually happen. If you promise choices that matter, make them matter. Okay, so watch time versus playtime. If you are watching the game more than you are playing it, then there is something wrong. Hideo Kojima is a video game war criminal for just shoving full feature-length films into games and calling them cutscenes. This is especially egregious if there's no ability to skip through. Like, I love story, but at the same time, I'm playing a game and there's not even voice acting. I read what the guy said, please just leave me alone when I'm done. Interactivity means activity. Playing a game means you're playing the game. You are having an effect on the game world, something that many people crave due to not being able to have an effect on their own real world. So with these tenets of storytelling and video games readily available, why do sports games always suck at story modes? First of all is an admitted concession. It's almost impossible to create the sheer amount of options and programming needed to accurately recreate a professional athlete's career. It would be nearly impossible to create the certain scenarios that are the most interesting in terms of story. Like, there would be a certain level of dynamism needed to recreate things like the flu game or the double that saved the Seattle Mariners. And there would also be a separate level of dynamism for the game to recognize certain crazy situations, like an ever-changing history book, a player questioning retirement throughout an entire season, or a different team needing a certain results in a game they have no control over. I'll get back to that later. There is already so much of the programming and budget going into actual gameplay every year that it makes it effectively impossible to create a game as sophisticated as Madden in terms of gameplay, but as dynamic as a D&D game led by Brennan Lee Mulligan. I mean, it's technically possible if they just spend a solid decade or so on one game, but it's Madden, it's out every year. This brings us to the other big reason of why, which is the studios making these games don't actually care about making good story modes. It's a monopoly no matter how you look at it. Sure, you can technically make your own football game, but you can't use the NFL because EA Sports has the exclusive rights. And even if you somehow got the rights for even one game, you're not going to match the EA machine and the name brand that is Madden or FIFA. Story modes are meant to be played once, while multiplayer and Ultimate Team encourages different money-making ventures for EA. PAX equals money. Providing online gaming communities with officially sanctioned tournaments? Money, somehow. As I said earlier, it'd be more efficient for a company that genuinely wants to make a good sports story mode to just make a game specifically built around that story mode. And EA isn't doing that with Madden or FIFA or anything. But then we get to the times that they actually do try and they just fail so bad. Longshot is a story on rails that makes it nearly impossible to change in any sort of dynamic way as a player. The fact that you fail is nice, but there's not very many choices you can truly make. The journey is actually the best out of all the EA Sports story modes because it sticks to its character. Although you still get put on rails a lot of the time. It's just annoying when your feelings aren't matched by the actual player. Fuck the gals, I don't want to play for Real Madrid, I just want to stay with Bayern! Not EA, but 2K actually makes a new story mode every year, and they put a lot of work into it. It's just that most of the time, it just doesn't work out. The original sports game story modes were the Jordan Challenge in 2K11 and LeBron mode in 2K14. Well, I mean, actually the first real story mode was 2K10, but 2K15 was the first time that they tried to make it like an RPG. And that attempt at an RPG proved to be a bit fatal for the idea of a good story. Every year, the player would create a character and then be immediately railroaded into a personality and often introduced to characters that they did not care about. Like, fuck you, B. Stupid ass loudmouth motherfucker. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Seriously, 2K17 was both the most ambitious attempt at a great story mode and the one that felt the most clunky, because it gives you relationships that you, the player, did not develop, which makes it all feel empty, and it provides characters you hate. Now that we know the problems, how can these attempts be fixed? How do you make a Madden story mode that's going to have a good story and be a good game? First, have a clear main character, beginning, and end goal. I mean, this is the easiest way to remove that sort of dissonance between the player's intentions and the story's direction. It should be a character like in The Journey or Longshot. Like, you may not have control over the character's intentions, but you understand that the character has their own intentions, it's not just you. And you can control them off the field, or at least in certain areas. The level of interaction and control of the character can help a player empathize more with the character as an extension of themselves. It's why you can instantly care about Max in Life is Strange despite her being a whiny little shit. You flick the stick and she moves. For better or worse, you are her. Also, the character needs to set the goals, not the player. Otherwise, things get unpredictable. Like, get the player to care about the character and then give the character a purpose that the player can get behind. You know, something like, I don't just want to be the first woman to be drafted into the NFL, I want to be the first woman to win a Super Bowl. This gives a clear destination and endpoint for the story. Even if things get a bit on the rails make sense. In fact, rails may be a bit necessary in order to reach the end goal in time for everything to be, programmed into the game. How about another one? I want to come back to the NFL and prove that I can still play like I used to, maybe even better. I'm gonna win that Super Bowl I didn't win before I went to jail. Can you tell I watched the ESPN Michael Vick documentary recently? Next, introduce your supporting characters within the story and give them a purpose and relationship. Sure, you don't need to have the character meet their mom for the first time during the game or meet their best friend for the first time, but there should be some sort of early scene for you to understand who these people are. This is why creating a love interest in normal story games is important, as it is usually someone the character and the player meet at the same time, meaning that the character's first judgment can reflect the player's first judgment. It's experiences that make the person, and in order for the player to be immersed into a character, they need to experience things as the character. Like, I want to go back to Life is Strange so I can talk about the one character I actually really loved, Chloe Price. She was Max's childhood friend, but you and Max both experienced this new Chloe for the first time together. That creates the impression. No matter how much history Max has with Chloe before, this is the way she is reintroduced, at the same time that Chloe is introduced on her own to the player. This slightly contrasts with Warren, who Max has a good relationship, but I find him a bit sketchy. Then again, I'm just distrustful of anyone who gets in the way of a good Yuri ship. Supporting characters also need to have an effect on the main character and even the player. 2K21 actually did a half-decent job at creating a love interest character that has some level of agency in the story and creates some sort of change in the story, although the writing team needs to do some research on how international soccer call-ups work. Anyway, the supporting characters are memorable for how they impact the player and the story, so they should be involved. Like, you know what's the most interesting part of sports from an emotional standpoint? Watching something happen that you have no control over, like needing another team to lose in order to make the playoffs from a win that you already got, or being injured and watching your teammates play without you, or maybe even as a coach and you're watching these players out there and there's nothing you can do to fix this. That moment when you are forced to take your hands off and watch in fear and hope. Create these sort of stakes where the player genuinely has to wonder if they did enough with the time that they had. You know, like that's how you properly create solid rails, by taking away control from the player. Because if the character does something that the player has no control over, that's stupid. But create something that the character has no control over, that happens to the character, you know, that makes more sense. That's more realistic. That is more true to life. So this gets me to one final thing. Be a dungeon master. I made a one-off joke earlier about like Brennan Lee Mulligan, but there's a lot to learn about the way he DMs and how he describes the way he does it. You don't need to railroad players if you give them a reason to continue on the path that you want them to continue on. Give players stakes, get them invested in the main character, and they will do what you ask. All you have to do is set things up. Like, the player needs to want to win the Super Bowl as much as the character. Create hardships in their way that they cannot control, or even create self-inflicted wounds from failure to maintain relationships or health. You know, have things matter, but have them matter in a way that shifts them to where you need them to go. Avoid A-B options, especially like obvious A-B options. If you want to limit choices, then at least make it 3 options. There are so many times you can tell what the good Christian boy option is and the prime time baby option is. It's obvious when they're right next to each other. And in the most recent games, you can't even really be prime time and are forced into being a good guy when we know very well how many bad guys there are in the NFL. A tracker was introduced in Face of the Franchise to track how the character's personality has been built, but those circles mean nothing to me and have no real effect on any sort of outcome. If you want meaningful choices, make choices meaningful and difficult to make. Don't be afraid of fail states. If the story is meant to end in victory, just say the player failed and needs to start over, or create optional endings where the character fails. Don't just give the same ending no matter what, or an ending where prior choices didn't matter. Looking at you, Life is Strange. Again. That's it. I hope that someday we can get good story modes in sports games, or maybe some other game comes out with good sports gameplay and quality story to compete with EA's Monopoly. For now, I think that, you know, this is the best that we got. Yeah, I think that the best that we've got is 2K, who at least tries with their story mode. They try to make it cinematic as possible. And then we've got Madden, Face of the Franchise, that is just like, well, you get to create your player at least. You get to have your own character. And then FIFA has kind of given up with Volta, I guess is their story mode. Thank you for watching. I'm planning on trying to do a bit of streaming sometime soon. It probably won't be Madden 22 because my 10-hour trial is very close to being up. I played Madden almost all of yesterday to kind of get a feel of everything. And then at the end of the day, like, I stayed up late to write my outline for this. So I woke up today and then just recorded this. So hopefully this all makes sense. Hopefully, you know, I don't know how much editing I'm gonna do on this because I just want to have this out because I feel like this is something that's annoyed me for a really long time. And I just want a good story mode. EA, if you want somebody who can write a good story mode, please hit me up. Also, 2K, if you want me to write a story mode for you, I can do that as well. I just want to make sure that there's some sort of good story modes happening in EA games because I'm sick of there being no good single player because I'm terrible at online play. Thank you for watching. You should like and subscribe, and also I have a Patreon that you can see. I have people there. This is the first time I'm doing this off the script, but I have people. I have three patrons actually. You only can see one. I also have a light novel that came out that I did about soccer and Yuri. So if you want to see what I can do for my own writing of a sports story, you can check that out. Anyway,